What if the grim adventures of Billy and Mandy wasn't canceled because it ended, but because it was too dark for its own good? With death as a main character, a ruthless kid, and humor that baffled adults, it was weird, gross, and brilliant, until it suddenly vanished. Creator Maxwell Adams says he was fired for ruining the brand. So was it too weird, too dark, or a clash between art and corporate control? Today, we're uncovering how Billy and Mandy changed kids' TV, why it was really canceled, and if Grimm might be ready to reap again. Early rise and unique style. When the grim adventures of Billy and Mandy first hit Cartoon Network in 2001, nobody expected it to work. On paper, it sounded insane. Two kids win a limbo contest against the Grim Reaper and force him to be their best friend forever. That's not exactly the kind of story you'd pitch for a children's show, but somehow it clicked. From the very first episode, Billy and Mandy threw the usual cartoon formula straight into a coffin and buried it 6 feet deep. The humor was unapologetically dark, the characters were disturbingly honest, and the tone felt like a Halloween special that never ended. Billy's brainless optimism, Mandy's cold dominance, and Grimm's eternal suffering created a bizarre chemistry that was as hilarious as it was unsettling. What set Billy and Mandy apart was its fearlessness. It joked about death, the underworld, and cosmic horror, mixing fart jokes with existential dread. Behind it was creator Maxwell Adams, who pushed boundaries and redefined what a kid's cartoon could be. But as the show got weirder and more popular, Cartoon Network grew uneasy with its dark tone. That tension soon sparked one of the strangest behind-the-scenes stories in Cartoon Network history, because Billy and Mandy's greatest villain might not have been in the show at all. Behind the scenes, creator versus network. For years, fans assumed the grim adventures of Billy and Mandy simply ran its course, that it ended naturally after a great run. But according to creator Maxwell Adams, that's not what happened. In a series of candid posts, Adams revealed that he was actually fired from Cartoon Network. His words? He said the network accused him of ruining the Cartoon Network brand. Let that sink in. The man who gave us one of the most creative and successful shows of the 2000s was shown the door for being too successful in the wrong way. Adams described Billy and Mandy as a hateful fart cartoon, not because he hated it, but because that's how some executives reportedly saw it. Crude, chaotic, and not in line with the new direction Cartoon Network wanted to take. By the mid to late 2000s, the network was shifting toward lighter, safer, and more commercial content, the kind that could sell toys and fit neatly between ad breaks. Billy and Mandy was messy, dark, and unpredictable, the opposite of what corporate TV wanted. After it ended, Maxwell Adams pitched new ideas, but they were all rejected. His once celebrated creativity became a risk. Cartoon Network moved on to safer, marketable shows, but fans never forgot. They kept asking why such a groundbreaking series vanished without an ending. Now, nearly 2 decades later, that question's resurfacing, because Grimm, Billy, and Mandy might not be buried for good. Fan demand and revival rumors. Even after the grim adventures of Billy and Mandy vanished from TV, its fan base never went quiet. In fact, as years passed, nostalgia only made the show stronger. Fans grew up, rewatched the episodes, and realized just how ahead of its time it was. A show that mocked life, death, and everything in between, wrapped in absurd comedy and morbid charm. And now, after years of silence, whispers of a Billy and Mandy comeback are spreading again. It started with a few cryptic hints. In interviews and social media posts, Maxwell Adams admitted that he's pitched ideas to bring the series back, not as a direct continuation, but as something fresh that reintroduces the characters to a new generation. He said he has 2 versions in mind, one more family-friendly, and another that leans into darker, more adult humor, a tone closer to what longtime fans actually want. Greg Eagles, the voice of Grimm, teased he was back at Cartoon Network doing Grimm stuff, sending fans into a frenzy. Rumors of a reboot spread fast, though nothing's confirmed. Reviving Billy and Mandy won't be easy in today's cautious climate, but with Adam's passion and fans' demand, it's clear the show was never dead, just waiting to rise again. Current struggles and reality check. As exciting as a revival sounds, the reality behind the scenes is far from simple. Maxwell Adams, the mind who gave life to Billy, Mandy, and Grimm, isn't exactly living the dream in Hollywood right now. In recent years, he's spoken openly about how tough it's been to get projects off the ground, especially when networks shy away from the kind of edgy, unpredictable humor he's known for. At one point, Adams even began auctioning off original production materials, storyboards, artwork, and animation cells. Not as a nostalgic gesture, but to help cover living expenses. It's a sobering reminder that even the creators of beloved cult classics can struggle to find stability in an industry that moves fast and forgets faster. Fans rallied to support him, buying memorabilia and promoting his work online, but it also sparked bigger questions. How could the creator of one of Cartoon Network's biggest hits be struggling to stay afloat? Animation has changed. Algorithms and brand safety rule now. The dark humor that made Billy and Mandy iconic might not survive today, yet Maxwell Adams hasn't given up. For him, the show was a statement about fearless creativity. The question is, could Billy and Mandy survive in today's sanitized world? What a return could look like. If the grim adventures of Billy and Mandy were to return today, it wouldn't just be another reboot, it would be a resurrection. But the question is, what form would that resurrection take? Maxwell Adams has already hinted that he's been developing 2 new projects, both inspired by the spirit of Billy and Mandy. The first is a more kid-friendly reboot, designed to fit within today's stricter content guidelines while still keeping that offbeat humor and weird charm. Think of it as Billy and Mandy with the edges softened. Grimm still suffering, Billy still idiotic, and Mandy still terrifying, but just a little less cruel. The second concept, however, is what fans are really talking about. A darker, more adult version that leans into everything that made the original so iconic. The satire, the horror, the chaos. It's the kind of project that could stream on platforms like Netflix or Max, where creators have more freedom to push boundaries. Adams has said he doesn't know which version would be easier to make. The safer one for networks, or the riskier one that stays true to the show's twisted roots. Maxwell Adams says there are still stories to tell, and with the right freedom, he'd return. Fans keep Billy and Mandy alive through viral clips and fan projects, proving its dark magic still works. The real question isn't if it'll return, but when, and whether the world's ready for Grimm to swing his scythe again. Legacy, and why it still matters. Nearly 2 decades later, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy still stands as one of Cartoon Network's boldest experiments. A show that proved kids could handle a little darkness, and that humor doesn't need to be sanitized to be smart. What made it timeless wasn't just the jokes or the characters, it was the attitude. The show never tried to teach you how to behave or feed you lessons. It was pure, chaotic storytelling, messy, irreverent, and brutally honest about how strange the world can be. Beneath the gross-out gags and screaming matches, there was real wit. It made fun of everything: fear, power, friendship, even death itself. And somehow made all of that feel normal. Billy and Mandy didn't just try to be funny. It aimed to be unforgettable. Its dark, absurd humor made it a cult classic and paved the way for shows like Adventure Time and Gumball. Even today, clips and quotes still dominate the internet. The irony? The show once blamed for ruining Cartoon Network actually redefined it, shaping the fearless weirdness of modern animation. Was Billy and Mandy canceled for being too weird? Too dark? Maybe. But that's what made it brilliant. It shattered the rules, mixing death, chaos, and childhood innocence into something that shouldn't have worked, but did. Now, with reboot rumors swirling, one question remains. If Billy and Mandy returns, will it still be as dark and unapologetic as ever? Because if Grimm swings that scythe again, the world better be ready.